Hi, guys, and welcome back to the Backstage Bikini podcast with your hosts, Grace and Jade. And on today's episode, I'm actually so nervous because I cannot believe we have Miss Bikini International IFBB Pro, my top favorite bikini Olympian of all time. Like, it's a massive pinch me moment. We have none other than Lauralie Chapados and her partner Aldo on the podcast, who is like her side eye, and he has a wealth of knowledge as well, especially when it comes to training. So it's a massive pleasure to have them on the podcast. So thank you so much, guys, for coming on. How are you keeping?
Hi, no, thank you for inviting. Having us like on this Sunday evening. Like,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I'm so happy to like do that together. 2 weeks out from the Arnold, and
We've never done one together.
no,
Holy shit, this is our first one together.
Woo!
Together.
A high five.
Oh, high five. Yes.
So before we get into it, obviously you're 2 weeks out from the Arnold. The time is flying. I'm sure you're the same. Like sometimes when you're in prep, you just blink and all of a sudden you're there. But how are you feeling on the lead up to it now?
I thank you for asking that. I mean, I feel honestly great. I've just got back from a little quick seminar that I had with Kim in Virginia. So I just had a little trip back and forth, was able to see him in person. Obviously, it's so different when you're able to see a coach in person. You know, we work really well online. Obviously, he's in California. I'm here in Florida. But the communication, you know, with all three of us, like Aldo included, Kim and I, like it just makes like I have eyes all around me, right? Like I can just really is able to like have people look out for me and then have the communication going on. But having him look at me in person, I mean, it's very precious. It's a lot better. So yeah, everything is where it's supposed to be, and I'm super excited for this upcoming Arnold for sure.
Amazing.
We can't wait to see you up there, Lauralie. It's one of those things that we all sit and just wait for in anticipation. I'm sure people communicate it with you all the time in terms of actually on like waiting for your performances and things like that. But yeah, thank you, like we've said, for coming on the podcast. I know your time is extremely precious, even more so being so close to show. So in terms of sort of getting into the podcast and into yourself and Aldo as well, in terms of the dynamic that you've got at the minute, we can start with where you started really, Lauralie, in terms of your actual background and your training and how you got into competing, just to give anybody who has been living under a rock and or doesn't know who you are. Can you give us a brief background about how you became the athlete and the bikini athlete we know today?
Of course. I mean, it's funny because we were talking a little bit behind the scene of you ladies, like when you first started, and you spoke about you being a dancer before. And, you know, when I first started, I was 17 years old. You don't really know who you are at this point. You know, I was just going to school, but I was, you know, my parents put us into like soccer, and during the summer, they would put us into like martial art, like jujitsu, and just skiing during the winter, because I'm from Canada originally, like Quebec City. So I try to find something that I could do on my own and just kind of like start on my own. So I got a membership to the gym, and I remember the exact date that I went there. I paid full cash with my hard earned money, and I just committed. I never looked back. Then I started training twice a day, and I would, you know, go in the morning, do like cardio and abs, and then the other morning would be like cardio and calves, and then I would go back to like weightlift in the evening after school. And yeah, like my first diet was out of bodybuilding.com and then tnation.com. And yeah, I mean, that was back in 2014, 15. So it's been a little while now, you know. I mean, I'm a decade now. So
And you earned pro status in 2016, wasn't it? So it was fairly soon after you kind of got into training. Like when you started, you know, in the gym, did you see yourself kind of going far in the sport long term?
I honestly went there so blindly. I just had someone that came to me, said, "Hey, you would do great at competition." And I was like, "To do what?" But that lady that came to me, she was so muscular, and she was a figure pro and so beautiful. And I was like, if that lady can say I can do something, like let me try. And and see what we can do about it. And I think it was 6-7 months later, I was on stage and I won my first show. And then I went to, like, you know, you do like a not a stage show, we call it like a, how do you call it? Like your first show. It's like a
rookie,
like a regional.
It's a rookie. Regional, yes. Sorry, I had it in French, but not English. So regional show, then provincial show, and then national the same year. But in Canada it was a little bit different. So our season is only from like June to like September, because people are done with school. So they kind of like put it that way, so people are able to prep and just compete during the summer. And I went to national the first year, but didn't win my pro card. I won first place, but not my pro card. And I was like, wait, I'm kind of good at this thing. And then I was like, we're just gonna go to national the year after that. So I had like almost a full year, and to this day was like the craziest year of my life. Like I've trained like an animal every single day, and I really had the vision of like, okay, I want to be a pro. And that was the first time that I actually set a goal to myself of like, I want to be a pro. And then, I mean,
it happened
a year after, like, now I want to be on the Olympia stage. And then after that, it's like, I want to be, you know, Miss Olympia. So it, like, gradually, you know, once I think you get your feet wet and you're like, wait, I'm kind of good at this thing. Like the more I put in, the more I can get out of, and you just keep on fueling the fire, I guess.
Yeah. It's so addictive. I think that whole sort of concept of getting into the sport, I think you either love it or you hate it, right? So you come into the sport and it's either something that you can really gel with, because you've spoken about it before, Lauralie. It's such a full-time commitment, and you've spoken about how you sort of adapted as an athlete sort of in that transition and turning pro and things like that. When you did turn pro, obviously with it being the goal, how did you find that transition? And even when you qualified for the Olympia, was there ever any stages within that journey, and even now, where you sort of came into obstacles, whether that be a mindset obstacle or like physically in terms of feedback? Did you ever get to a roadblock and really have to push beyond it and be like, no, I can do this?
I mean, girl, every day. Every day, like you know, every day things are not easy. It's not true that it gets easier because we do it more and we're more experienced, because life still happens, you know, like we're bodybuilders, yes, but we can't put a break on just life happening. And I mean, I've also grown so much. Like, I mean, I started, I was 17 years old, I'm now 28. I have, you know, my partner now with me. Like it's just so different. And I've found myself throughout the sport, you know, like before like everything was related to the sport, but now I'm more so like working on being Lauralie, and that was like for the last couple of years. So my choices and decisions have been different. I feel more aligned now. I feel healthier, so much better. So it changes, you know, like I don't want to go back to like all of the past, because there's so much to talk about. And obviously like the struggle that I used to have in the past, which would be like traveling with food, you know, make, you know, my schedule work with school. And then it is not the same struggle as I'm struggling right now. And I don't want to say struggle as like negative, but just now that I'm closer to, I have more behind me that I have in front of me, right?
Yeah.
So now I compete, but I have, you know, a vision of Lauralie being a mom eventually, like Lauralie being like, you know, like obviously like a partner, a family person. Like I'm more grounded. Like I've been in Florida for like 2.5 years now. Like it's just, I attack things differently, and my perspective is very different. And all around is great. It's just, you know, you have the bodybuilder side and then you have Lauralie side. And I'm trying to obviously fuel both of them and not forget about any one of them, even though I'm so committed to my bodybuilding career. Like I don't want to, I would have tend to think that the harder and like the darker that I would get, the more the better I would be. But it's actually like it has been the opposite. And I remember when I've made the decision to work with Kim, he told me like, we just need to have fun. And I remember how aggravated I would get when he would say that. And I'm like, do you know how much I've given of my life? Like none of that is for fun. Like it's commitment, it's sacrifices, like don't call it fun. And the last Olympia was like, after 2 years, I'm like, Kim, I understand what you said. Because this past Olympia for me, I mean, to this day, like
everyone was fun.
Yeah, to everyone it was fun for so many reasons.
Kim kissed me on the cheek.
I get that. I get it is. It's like a full-time job, and like with any job, it kind of gets easier the more you do it. But it's a case of, okay, right, are you going to shut yourself off from the world for that job? And I think you've shown like tremendous balance, and I use that word lightly, obviously. You and Phoebe, I think, we had a similar conversation when she was on the podcast, like how well you manage that. And what I love about you and what I relate to so much is how much of a family person you are. And I don't think that can be said for a lot of athletes, maybe, that they can commit to family time, friend time, and value that just as much as bodybuilding. So like, how, I suppose, just jumping ahead, like how have you managed that over the last few years? Have your family always been supportive of this goal? Have you always been, close with them, prep to prep? Like, how have you found, I suppose, balancing that aspect of your life?
We spoke about it out of the podcast a little bit, because there's one of your question at the end of the question that you asked about what would you do different, like if you could do something different into your journey. And Aldo was like, because I was like going off like different lesson, and I would have,
Everything happens for a reason.
Everything happens for a reason. I wouldn't have changed anything, but I'm like, he was like, you should say that you would keep your family closer throughout your journey. And it's so true, because this year Olympia, I had all my family around. Everybody was happy. Everybody knew their place too. Like I didn't feel like I had the pressure to entertain anyone. Like I was very secure with myself, very secure with my body. And everything was kind of in sync and very aligned, and just such a great time. And when all of this came down from the the prejudging, and I realized that I wasn't going to make it, obviously, to the top 3, the first feeling was confusion. But I remember being confused just because I was so happy and everything was so aligned. I was like, God is so with me right now, and everything is so happening exactly. Like I would test God like so much during that week, and just be like, I'm going to be late here, I'm going to be like that. But he made me on time every time. I was aligned, like everything would just work and work and work. And he was having the best time of his life, like training with Dorian. We're able to, like, it was just such a good time.
Yeah.
That it was like, there's no way it could be like not happening for me. Like this is the year. And obviously it wasn't. But then, or was it? Yeah, exactly. So, I want to say that having balance and having my family close to me have been able to just make me so secure, and being able to have the support system that I need. Not the one that I thought I needed, because you don't need everyone around you. You don't need everyone to love you. You need the right person to give you love, and the real people that give you real love, no matter what. And yeah, that the Olympia in Vegas was a big test for me, and it showcased that all my family, my uncle, my grandfather were there, like and they still were there after the show, like despite the placing. So instead of being alone and going through that by my own, because I've been pushing my family back a little bit in the beginning, because I had a hard time to explaining what I was doing. So I would rather like hide.
Yeah.
And instead of like being confrontational, and just kind of like, when they're asking me question like, why do you eat this? Like, can you eat that? And I would just not answer, and like just hide from everybody, and just doing my thing, and like feeling misunderstood, and just like thriving in being misunderstood.
Yeah.
But they just want you to be happy. And now my parents are coming, they're looking forward to being in Columbus. Like they understand what they can do, it's just all great all around. So yeah, family is everything.
I think it's interesting what you said about the lesson, or whether the Olympia win, and we'll put win up here in terms of like the actual win, by the sounds of that, Lauralie, is that everybody was present, you were present, and you finally found a balance that struck in the right fashion for you to absorb everything that was going on around you, enjoy it, and everybody else had their position in that, in terms of supporting you as well. Like that, finding that environment ultimately is probably one of the most difficult things we face, or I certainly did, like sort of coming into the sport, people simply didn't understand. So maybe that was the win, like Aldo said, like, was there a win? Is that the win? And that will set you up for proceeding sort of shows and things like that.
Yeah, very, very well.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, because it's been you know, you navigate a lot of emotion. Like we pour so much of ourselves, but we wouldn't be who we are if we didn't have like family around us. Like it would be so, sometimes I just feel like it's so easy. It would be easier for me to just cope with bodybuilding and just like being a robot and just every 3 hours I gotta eat, every like 5, but it wouldn't be as fulfilling as it would be right now. So I think there's a reason why I have yet to win the Olympia, because there's so much to learn, and everything happens for a reason, like we said.
100%.
So
And I think,
really
like I said, if you're a family person, like you grow up with these people and they feel something in you and they make you feel a certain way, and having them in that aspect of your life, like whether you knew it or not, like you'll know it now that was filling something in you that you probably didn't know, is just having their support and having them physically there as well. And that's going to take you into a different mindset for this year. So yeah, no, I love that. But I suppose jumping back to the Olympia itself, it feels like such a long time ago now. It's crazy bad. But what was your feedback? Because we want to hear it from you. I'm sure you've spoken about it a little bit, but what was your specific feedback? And have you adapted anything going into this Arnold's prep as well?
So going back to the Olympia, which for real, it really feels like a year ago already. But it's only been what, like 14 weeks, maybe?
Yeah.
12. Yeah. No, this past Olympia, my feedback was to, you know, they've been very clear about what they were looking for as far as like proportion and hourglass shape. And I think by myself, it's one thing, like being by myself, but once being compared to the other girl, my lower body was too dense and it projected too much. So it was just a matter of bringing it back down and just bringing it more, you know, proportion to the physique and just have a better overall flow. But I got to add to that, because to about, was it like three days before the Olympia, we were training, and you know, I mean, again, it was, like I said, I was the happiest, healthiest, like just thriving, the best time of my life. And we're training at the gym and everything is good. And then coming back, I turn around to Aldo, I'm like, babe, like I'm cramping. And he's like,
I've never heard that before.
yeah.
Really?
I always heard, I've never heard her say, I'm cramping. I always hear her say something about her period, that they, I guess girls get their period when around the show time. I guess that's a thing. And I always hear it happens, and it always happened when I've been with her, but I've never heard her complain about I feel cramping. That's when I was just like, I think deep. I'm like, is that a good thing or a bad thing? I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
I've heard I'm getting my period, but never I'm cramping. I'm like
having like syndrome of PMS, right? So like I started like PMSing really hard, which again, it's hard for me to complain because it's like, wait.
But it wasn't a complaint. It was just like,
it's what's happening.
The fuck? Well, yeah, what's happening?
Yeah.
So and then, you know, I think you can see on stage just like a film of that estrogenic water.
Yeah.
So we weren't far off from the physique, and it's really hard to not be happy. Like, even I'm still looking at those pictures, and I sort of like, I swear, girls, like, it's really hard for me to be like, I looked bad, or like, I love this package. Like, I honestly, and it's really like, I'm very hard on myself, very hard. I still don't think my Arnold looks were good, but I'm so proud of that look. And I think it comes down to just probably emotional attachment to it, of like how.
But also what because I'm looking at it from a boyfriend perspective, not someone that's trying to like be a coach, because I'm not a coach, you know. I'm a personal trainer. Like, I'm just there as a boyfriend in the seats, and I'm very fucking on. Oh, sorry, I'm very honest. So I'm watching, and I'm very like detailed. I don't know if you've seen how I train and stuff. So I'm looking, and I'm like, okay, and I don't give any input until I'm asked, because Kim, he's the GOAT. She a GOAT herself. If you know, so I was looking and I was like, okay. And I started realizing something. I'm like, her body has changed. She's developed more mature muscles. Her training has changed. She's developed dense muscles. She's developed new training habits, a different physique, as you guys could see as every show goes on. Then I started realizing when we got back to the room, babe, when was the last time you changed, not your posing routine, not your poses, but like those little hand gestures, the arm gestures, the finger gestures, because all those things play a role in the posing, whether you're standing side by side with somebody. And she told me, what, it was 2 years that like 2 years ago. And I was like, babe, and then what I just told you, I was like, babe, that pose, like with the finger thing, look, do it right now. And then that was fun for me in that moment in the hotel room. I was like a kid, like I just light up when that happened. So she was doing I don't know how she does it, or you girls do it with the hand on the hip thing, and then the other, I don't know. And I'm like, all right, look at your shoulders there. Now look at your shoulders relaxed. Now look at your shoulders and find it in between. Look totally different. I'm like,
yeah,
your physique 2 years ago is not the same physique now. So those little intricate like details of the fingers and the hands and the arms and the direction that you're pushing your shoulder and your elbow, opposite directions, all those things matter when you're presenting your physique on stage. And I was like, holy shit. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And then we got down to the lats, we got down to the like all that stuff. And that was really like, the whole experience was fun. That's what she was saying. It was like fun. And then even that part where it just clicked to me. Maybe that was God telling me, here, this is how you be a better partner.
Yeah.
And like, this department when it comes
some
to
input, you're important.
That's it. I think even at your level, Lauralie, I think it's assumed almost that you get to this level, and whilst you're still trying to progress your physique and you're still trying to adapt and change and bring a slightly different package, but it's almost like people think, oh, you're there now. So it's tiny, minute changes, and albeit tiny, they still make such a huge impact, and your physique will still change. And obviously your training's changed and your approach has changed. You're with Kim now. And I think those types of things are often overlooked, even by like us as amateurs. I mean, we have to dig that so much, like, to try and actually put that muscle on our frame in the first place. But how was that to actually sort of sit back? Obviously Aldo there sort of directing you and being like, oh yeah, okay, I need to try and sort of redirect my mind again and go in again and see what I like now. Do you still find yourself doing that quite frequently now?
So I think I've overlooked it for a while too, or like kind of took it for granted. And I think it was for the Olympia. I remember when Kim came and they were kind of chatting and about the poses and what we want to bring femininity and all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, like, and I'm just, okay, I'm going to go back to work. And one day he's just like training this lady that has a daughter that's a 16 years old daughter, beautiful, gorgeous, like, and she's a dancer. And he calls me, he's like, you need to like work with this girl.
Because even before that though, so Kim was like the icing on the cake. When he said it, I just went. Because I could tell Lauralie something out of my opinion, but it's just like a thought from a boyfriend. But the fact that Kim kind of said the same thing was like, now she like God is speaking to her type of thing. Because before I was asking questions like, are those poses like mandatory? Like, you know, when you walk out and you do the, I don't know, pose thing, are those mandatory? Are you allowed to like, you know, I guess be less, you know, robotic type of thing? Are you allowed to like use your fingers in a you know, feminine, more feminine way, like relaxed? Can you speak like more with, you know, your presence? And then dance like ballet? There you go. Yeah, like, you know, and exactly
Express.
same thing.
So,
Yes, yes, and then because that also, what does the hand gestures do? They your physique. So if you're building your physique and then you're posing with your physique, when you're walking with your physique, what can you do with your hands in addition to that? Build your physique as you walk on stage and you go and you present and you transition and stuff. And I was like, and I always told her that, but I didn't really put any thought, like deep thought into it. It was just like a ticking thing every day. But then when Kim said it, boom, I was like, wait a minute, I'm training this client that is from Georgia. She has a 16-year-old professional ballroom dancer. Holy crap. So then you can finish the story.
Okay.
Wait, no. Okay. Like it's such a fun story, and like it just made it I think that's what made the prep so much fun, is just because like the open mind and like how his world came into my world, and like everything was just together.
The whole gym were like together. You know?
So we were traveling to RTS. So he invites me to go to RTS because he's like with continual education and all this stuff on his own. But he's like, babe, like you got to see this. And I'm just like, okay, like, you know, let's have a little like nerd moment. So we're traveling and we're at the airport. I'm chilling, you know, like I just want to chill sometimes. And he's like, all right, babe, stand up. We're gonna do some.
And I'm in a wheelchair. Because I fractured my toe, but
yeah, so he's in a wheelchair and he's like, you had your foot. So he's like over here and he's like, babe, let's practice your posing. And he's just like showing me videos. And when he gets into something, like
no room for error.
No, that's no room for error. But you're like, let's go and just let's do it. And then when you come back, they came and you were like, yeah, like this needs to happen. And ladies, to this day, I never let anyone touch my posing ever. I was like, this needs to be locked in a secret, and you just get kind of like word with the person that comes into your life at some point too, and they're like, are you gonna come back and like ask me like for, I don't know, you never know. Like, but this girl is 16 years old, sweetest heart, and
sweet.
Oh my God, we spent like literally hours, and
she was one of her fans. Like she's a fan of hers too. It's like it helped her, like just it was great.
Nobody's getting secrets anytime soon.
No. The complete package though, because your feedback from Sandy, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was Sandy, about your posing and how feminine it was, and we haven't seen anything like that. Like you were the first person to bring different movements, because we do as amateurs, we emulate what you're doing because we watch the Olympia. You are our idols. You are the athletes that we are aspiring to come up and compete against one day and be a part of that circle and be a part of that experience. So to bring something that individual, it's no surprise really, Lauralie, that you felt at home in everything that you were doing, if you actually felt like you'd brought your version of yourself right now, as opposed to something that you were still connected to 2 years ago.
Right.
She said it great.
Yeah, you said it so well. And it just felt like I wasn't alone on that stage. It wasn't just, it was for the people at at home. And it was very connected to so many ways. So yeah, that's why it felt so great. And after that, just the feedback alone of like people just, wow, we needed to rewatch that. And like I came up from stage and Phoebe was like, because only Phoebe knew I was gonna change something. And she was like, bro, I watched on this, I'm like, my jaw just dropped. Like, what was that? I'm like, you know, and it was just like a performance, a good moment backstage. The energy, everything was so good. That's what I said.
You could hear it in the crowd. Now, like, like there was like, it was forced onto them. It was accepted. It was like, you can't.
I'm so excited for the Arnolds to see what you bring now. But I suppose touching on, like I said, the influence that Aldo has had on you, like obviously that's a really, really big one. But the training, we've seen a lot of it on Instagram. Like I think out of all the Olympians and, you know, FBB pros, like you share a lot of your training like day in, day out, and you've really brought us on that journey, training in Iron University. But like, how has your training changed over the years, you know, maybe specifically working with Aldo and, you know, taking on board the feedback? Has anything been adapted?
So many things. Do you want to dive into that, or?
So she's become more in tune with intention of what she needs to do as a competitor when it's stepping on stage, like taking the advice from the judges with Kim, and then formulating a game plan and sticking to the game plan as day in, day out, but also challenging herself as an athlete when she looks in the mirror by herself, when I'm not around, when Kim's not around, and the decisions that she makes on her own. Does she do that extra rep? Does she put on that extra plate? Does she steer to, you know, past things that, you know, that don't serve a purpose anymore, but then they take away from her calories, they take away from her energy. Those things are like the small things that you guys were referring to, but they play a big impact on her physique because she's built a foundation that she could just, all she needs to do is fine tune. But if she adds one more rep, it could change a lot, because that one rep, every single glute workout is going to add up to boom, type of thing. Yeah. So like monitoring like herself as an athlete, or me like watching through the office, did she just add another plate on there? Something. I trust her right now. And then, you know, like that whole thing, like it's a work, that is a work in progress, because she knows how to live, she knows how to train. She got herself to the Olympia in 2000, what was it, 18 by herself. So she knows what works with her body. She knows what, it's always basic stuff. But now at this point, it's how much do I push? How much do I regress? How much do I like stop and rest? But that's the exciting part, because it's those little details that no one talks about, or that no one really has to dive into, because they don't have those same, you know, not issues, but those difficult,
no, you can say issues. You can say issues there.
those issues, like when it comes to the physique, like, oh, my glutes are too big. Oh, this side of my glute is too big. Okay, my shoulders are too big, or my back is too wide. Like, I don't know. We just would, you know, have to go back to the drawing board and understand. She'd have to think more deeper into her workout, her exercise selection, and then also what Kim has to say. And to me as a trainer, I'm a kid at heart. So when Kim speaks, I'm fucking like there, like this, like listening, because he's the GOAT. Like,
yeah,
he has the most produced female athlete Olympian winners in history.
Yeah.
So if he says something, he has all the statistics, all the, knows what's going in, what's going out of the athlete's body, whether it's food, nutrition, supplements, workouts, exercises, because when he checks in with you, that's like twice a day, 3 times a day. But when it's getting closer to the show, it goes like 4 times a day. But he could tell when something's off, or what you put in your body and didn't sit well with you. So if he says something, that's a reference to every athlete that he's put on stage at the Olympia level, and they actually won. Yeah. So when he's saying something, we're absorbing it, but we really have to understand it and then do art. Well, me do my work and research and do. That's what he meant. Oh my God. And then that's a gem. That's something for free that he just like gave to us for her, though. So now you have to stick to it. Whether, you know, the challenge is sticking to it with like releasing or not using the past stuff that we're so used to that doesn't serve a purpose or doesn't make sense, or what we revealed is not what it's said to be. So then that's like the big thing right there, is learning how to those fine little detail stuff.
Yeah, and kind of like navigate it and understand it. I think the word understand really applies, because obviously I understand something when Kim tells me something, I understand, let's say, or like a feedback of the judges, I would understand from my own perspective, but from his lens, it's going to be different, because he's not only, he's a trainer, of course, like first things first, but he's also a boyfriend. So now I'm like trying to navigate, is my girlfriend really saying to me, like, because when I tell him,
the same
when I tell him, babe, they're saying my shoulders are too big, they're like, he's like, yeah, but how, like, I'm like, they're not too big for us to not train really hard anymore, but so he's like, wait, what are you exactly saying right
now?
now?
I'm confused and I'm freaking out. Because I'm like, did they say that they're like, don't train them anymore, that they're too big, or that they're overly big and you need to regress them?
Yeah.
Or are they, okay, those are good, just keep them there? Because all those three of those things mean different things when it comes to a trainer. And then I started looking at myself like, damn, I was so stupid. Why did I like think it that way? But then I was like, wait, how did I interpret it? Wait, how was it spoken to me? You know that game, the banana, where you tell a secret, the phone call game, and it just it's like, wait a minute.
See what the message is
and
at
I
the end.
yeah, exactly. So then that's when I'm like, all right, we all, as soon as like she gets the feedback, give it to me so I could like write it down, and then that we write it on the whiteboard now, and that's right there. No one's changing any word. Yeah, that's what we're looking at every single day, instead of going off of emotion and like
or fear, emotion, fear, all these things, you know, because you know, you look at yourself and you're kind of like, okay, I'm not big enough, I'm not this, I'm not that, like I feel flat, I feel this, but there's a lot of things that needs to be laid off from you and leave it to the expert and professional, you know.
Like past things as well. And what's really difficult is like bikini is like always changing, and that's what makes it so complex with the feedback, because you're like, okay, well, how big is too big? And then you never know what they might be looking for in another year. And especially for Aldo as like a trainer, like it's different being a judge versus actually being like a trainer as well. And my ex would have been the same. Like you have to really study bikini, because like training is one thing, but actually like trying to fit that criteria and the feedback is another thing. But I suppose like you have been in the game for so long, Lauralie, like getting your pro card in 2016, and bikini really has evolved then, and they've gone for, you know, different looks over the years, and you know, there's been like different arguments and all that around what they're going for. But like what has your opinion been on this, and how have you kind of adapted through that like evolving criteria, and obviously where it's at now given what they looked for at the Olympia with Jen? Like where do you stand with all of that?
I think it's always interesting how, and I completely understand where you're coming from when you say like how much has changed and or evolved or whatever these terms are. But I've been at the Olympia in the top 5 for the last 7 years, 6 years, 7. I can't remember, 7, 6 since 2018 in the top 5. And to be honest with you both, they're looking for the same thing. They're looking for the same thing. They're very, very consistent. I think the girls, and it's not your fault, because we've all been there at some point in the beginning of our career. We don't look at the right place. So, you know, just the coaching alone, like Kim is the most winning Miss Bikini Olympia. Like he's the only active coach this year that had Miss Olympias, and I was the only one he coached. Like, or like some of the, I think we were 4 like girls that coached. I'm like, wait, how? If these girls wants to be Miss Olympia, why aren't they training with Miss Olympia coaches that actually won Miss Olympias? You know, and then the thought process on like, let's say training, or like you said, emulating. When you look at the top 5, nothing like some of us have like competed for 7 years. Like Janet has been there for 10. Angelica had a kid and she's coming back. Do you think she's been doing unhealthy, crazy stuff and is able to like do that now? She's not. So like now the girls that are coming in, it's like, do I need to do this? Do I need to do that? I'm like, wait a second. You need to be patient, and you need to like think like at the right, like to the right sources. And I think there's a really a mishap. And I mean, Sandy, all the way to last year, she was like, Lauralie, you just need to bring your 2018 look back, 2018. And I swear, if you put your 2018 Olympia look and my 2 Arnold winning look, very, very big. This is the closest I've ever been to those look, ever. And I'm like, I mean, they know what they're talking about. The judges are really, really, really good. Really good. You also have to understand like the lineup. For me, when I saw the Olympia, and I've got compared to the top 3, I think, one time. And when I look at the back pose, I'm like, oh shoot, okay, yeah. Like I come out as a sore thumb.
Yeah.
And
I
I understood the placing right there. As you know, everybody was kind of confused and stuff, so whatever. But I understood right there. So yeah, I think it's a matter of like looking at what they've been rewarding at the Olympia for the last decade.
Yeah.
And I think that's a fair place to be.
Even the conditioning has evolved slightly, hasn't it? The conditioning's evolved slightly, and I think that's potentially just with like muscle maturity and things like that across the board. But the actual conditioning that they are looking for on that body, on an individual body, the fullness, the bubbliness, that sort of hourglass S frame, a nice free-flowing physique, that principle hasn't changed. Do you think that the muscularity of the girls on stage now compared to sort of a decade ago has changed? Or do you think that, again, is just a manipulation of what is already in place?
I think it's obviously like the maturity side of things that comes down to, but I mean, Jen Dory, I won my pro card, like, and she won her pro card the year after. And I could say like she always had the same dense little muscle. Like she's a little tank. Like she's just beautiful muscle all around, and she's always been like that little, you know, perky butt, like watermelon butt, you know, she's always been like that. But would I say it changed? Like, I mean, if I look back to my physique that won my pro card, I would agree that
For the people on, so when you ask that question, is it, I always think bigger, not bigger, but like deep, not deep, but like wider, I guess.
yeah, wider, yeah.
So from the professional stage, the Olympia stage, or the regional or NPC stage, because from my understanding, those are all different types of physiques and judging type of.
Yeah, right? Very different. I think there's very different, especially we find it in the UK. There's a bit of disparity in terms of us.
That too.
Yeah, like
understanding,
really understanding the criteria. It's so difficult over here.
Do you guys go by what they say in the US or by what they're saying in the UK? Or you guys?
Yeah, it's difficult because obviously the judging panels here, like we're not as educated. We had Adam on the podcast, like talking about like the judging is very different, and that's what makes it difficult. And that's why it's so important that we have these kind of conversations and chat with other coaches to try and bring a similar look and criteria over to Europe. Because what we're seeing awarded over here, well, last year I think it was a little bit of improvement. It is getting better, but they are definitely looking for more muscular and leaner as well. And it's interesting, if you, I don't know, Lauralie, if you keep up with any of the European athletes that do make it to the Olympia stage, they do very, very well in the European circuit, and they get first, and they might win multiple shows over here. And they don't even get a look in the Olympia. You know, they might get last call outs, even though they might be like a favorite in Europe to do quite well. And it's just interesting to see the two. But it's interesting because we always look and say, right, look the top 5, but then we also have to say like what is actually getting rewarded here, you know, to get people their pro status first and then get into the American scene.
So what I see, like now that now I get it. So standing from a standpoint where before I wasn't following bikini because I never met Lauralie, right? But I was into bodybuilding years before that. Then I took a break from watching it because I just didn't my favorite bodybuilders weren't competing anymore. So I just laid off of it. But then when I met her, I'm like, wait a minute. Oh, the physique's changed. Like before it was like Sports Illustrated type of, physiques type of thing. And then now it's okay. Under Armour physiques. Like, when you walk into a, yeah, it's like those, like, okay, there you go. Like
business
that's
now.
the type of physique. Well, look, but not as, softer look. And then it's like, okay, cool. But then it started changing, like not the top 5 started changing. They always kind of stayed the same. But the competitors that were on their way competing to get to, I guess, to the top were changing. So the top Olympia physiques always stayed the same, but just little minute changes. But everybody that were, on the strive of coming up, those were changing. And then I started realizing it's because I get a lot of clients that are competitors now. And I always ask them, what are they doing in their training program? Because I don't want to step over boundaries, whether they have a coach. And I'm understanding that coaches do the nutrition, do the training, but how a coach always has that one, thing that's great about them. This guy's, he's known for nutrition. This guy known for training. This guy known for posing or something. I don't know. But they always have that one thing that they're good at, that they're known for. But then as a package, they give out training programs, which is great because for the athlete, if it's their first time, at least they have some structure. But then all those nuances that they have to, obtain in between, no one's there to guide them through that, because that's a coach, not, a trainer. And then the trainer that's known for being a trainer is not a nutritionist. And that navigation, I guess it only, develops as you grow as an athlete, but then that show after show after show that you have to go through to understand that. For me as a trainer, I'm starting to see that, line going through with everybody. And then it's like, all right, do I say something now? Because no, I'm not going to say something because they're a couple of weeks away from the show. So do I say, no, I'm not going to say something. But that's what I'm starting to realize are those things, that it's a good thing. And it's also like something that they're going to learn through, but they have to find the balance in between the two, but also the other stuff, like on social media, the misinformation, that's a big thing. That's a huge, big issue, is like, this does this, but then later on, actually it doesn't do this. So now we're going to do this now. But then it's like, wait, that stuff was being posted as this does this. All those women and all those females that have been training like that, they train like that for a specific reason for those many years. And now it's just like, oh, no, that's inappropriate. That's not the way things should be going. You need to be more aware of what you're indulging, what you're reading, what makes more sense, instead of drinking this person's, Kool-Aid, that person's Kool-Aid. Because if you sit back, relax, and you look at things, bikini coach or no bikini coach, trainer or no trainer, salesman, no salesman, you have to start distinguishing, okay, what is the approach that zones in on my specific goal, which is bikini? And if you have to go and dissect coach from coach from coach and do your research, that's an athlete's job to do that. To be a great, athlete, you have to say, okay, he's known for nutrition, I'm getting that coach. He's known for training, that coach. So Kim, coaching, even coaching as a coach, how to speak to a client, that is like speaking, communicating. That's the first thing I love about Kim, is his coaching, his speaking, his interaction with his athletes. And then his nutrition, boom, his navigation through the season and stuff, like all that, that's a coach. But then trainer, Charles Glass. And then breathing is a whole big other ball game, but that's an athlete's job to like understand, okay, do I wear a faja or do I breathe better, or do I be more aware of this stuff? because when I'm walking on stage, I can't wear that faja. Okay, boom. What do I do with my hands? Oh, let's get this little girl that's 16. Oh, boom. Now I have that. Now, if I stayed in these heels, okay, let's go to South Beach and watch men wear high heels and ask, guys walking high heels, like doing all that stuff. Because if anybody has it down, they have it down. So you get the best of everybody and you build your own thing, because there's no one guide for bikini building at all whatsoever. You have to create your own thing, because there's no science behind bikini building. There's no guidebook to it. It's just a trial and error type of thing. But then you have to, not hear the BS that you hear from this person, that person, that person, that person, that's always in your ear. This is what you have to do. This is what no, that's what you have to do. That we do. And it just confuses you guys so much. I see it all the time. Trust me, I see it all the time. I end up asking one simple question, and they just start answering their own question. I'm like, wait, so is that a question? You just answered it yourself, type of thing. But then I start realizing that's cycle of things. But that's what I think is the bigger. It's not an issue. It's just more of awareness type of thing.
Everyone wants to be a specialist, don't they? And you're just left with like floods and floods of ideas and opinions, and it makes it really hard to actually hone in on what you need to do. And that's what you said, like there are people for certain things, and it's so important that we look up to the best of the best and what are they doing. Okay, like how is Lauralie training? What can I learn from that as well? Rather than letting all of these kind of people who think they know what they're talking about, even like our local kind of personal trainers and all that kind of thing, they all have an opinion, and everybody acts like they're a bikini specialist these days. But you just have to look at people who are the top and who are actually.
I think the best way to zone in on it, if the person or individual says, I have the answers, or this is how you do it, like specifically with those words, or like saying it in a definite way, start questioning, start thinking like, red flagish type of thing. But if a person or a trainer or a coach or someone that's opposing coach says, well, we could try our best and figure something out along the lines to what's going to help with your goal, that means they're invested to tell you the truth.
Because you can't speak in depth. You can't speak in bikini, especially. I mean, if you take, it's off on a tangent a little bit, but you take open bodybuilding, for example, the condition and the size, you're looking for symmetry, size and condition. And I'm not saying for a minute that it's any easier or harder than coaching bikini, but I think because bikini is so nuanced in terms of what you actually need to bring as a physique on your frame as well. Like, so what that looks like and that muscle, what that muscle looks like on that frame versus that frame. It's not physically about, because we saw it when Isa won the Olympia, for example. Everybody started flaring the lats like further down the ranks then, because everybody thought that they had to have an extreme X frame, and that simply wasn't what was chosen or awarded at the time, but that's how it translated. So take the noise out, like you said, Aldo, take all of that away. You've just got to hone in on the specificities for you. And if somebody is invested in finding those for you, as opposed to picking somebody else's specificities and duplicating them across the board, because it's never going to work.
And that's the most beautiful thing about bikini for me, is like how we're able to be so unique and really present our best physique for structure. And I think that's really key. And I just think we need to be cautious as women that we are. Just, just a little bit insecure sometimes, just a little bit, to not take all the noise and just make it definite and just go by it,
What I've been seeing is like, there's like athletes or girls that because I speak to them when we're training, I don't just say, okay, you're here for glutes. Okay, we're going to do this, this, and this, and this, and you have to do this. You'll never hear me say that. It's more of a conversation of what they've been doing. Okay, you've been doing this and you're struggling still with this. Okay, what's, how many exercises do you do in your workout? And then they'll show me their workout program, and then how many times a week they train, and then why they're not, what's their opinion of how come they're not growing this, or why this is growing and that's not growing. And then we go along and they take me through the workout, and then I start, taking things bit by bit. And then that's when I teach them, the mechanics of this, what this should be, what that should be. But it's never do that. But then when I communicate with them, they're more relaxed. It's more of a communicating thing. It's more of a, not a trainer client thing. It's more of a, all right, so like, what do you do? Like kicking the shit type of thing. And then let's figure it out together. And then they start opening up saying, yeah, I always wondered. And like, I always thought like, what if I did this? And I'm like, how many times have you thought that? Like for how many years? No, for like they never really thought of that before. They'll say like, oh, like probably like a year now. And then I would respond, and you never decided, hey, let me just fucking try it? Yeah. Because it might work for you. It might be like, it's telling you something for a reason. Don't be so restricted on what your body is trying to tell you. And that's taken away from the fun of training, is figuring shit out, trying new things, being happy of like discovering your body, discovering your abilities, your capabilities, and then growing yourself. What she did in 2018, she discovered her body, what responded with it. And maybe that's something that a lot of, athletes need to start doing, is having fun, just like Kim said. Listen, everything's going back to what Kim is saying. Look how crazy
we gotta get Kim on the podcast.
Like during your like, if there's an exercise that you're having trouble with executing, try it on a day that you're not working out, or try it on the end of your workout of the opposite body part, or try it after your cardio session or before your cardio session, because guess what? You're more relaxed. You're not like in there like, I'm ready for war. No, I felt my quads during your glute workout. And it's like, that just puts a negative connotation to your time, the time that you get all these endorphins, all these, moments of clarity of like enjoying the process. Mm-hmm. So I think that's what Kim said was, have fun, and really have fun with it. Don't neglect yourself as an individual or as a woman and say, no, I can't try that. I shouldn't try that, because no one's going to come out of the bush and be like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Yeah. You shouldn't feel that way when you're training for yourself and having fun with it.
Right.
Explore, try. Yeah, just try everything.
Yeah, not putting yourself in a box. And like you said about like, assessing Lauralie's physique, like you'll know looking at yourself in the mirror. And I think that's where you need to be like really self-aware if like something's working. So obviously you're checking in with your coach, but like checking in with yourself and like seeing, are these methods working and everything, and not being tied down just one way of doing things. I think that that goes for loads of people training. Like our bodies all respond differently to different exercises as well, which is really interesting. But to swerve the question a little bit, and this is something that I have, I would say your off seasons, I've really been, keeping up to date with them just as much as your preps. But I think it was last year's off season, or when you took the longer break, you'd spoke about like your hormonal health and getting your health back to a good place. And I think you had gained quite a bit above stage weight, like more than you previously would have, or how other kind of Olympians would. How do you find that time mentally between shows? Because I thoroughly find it so inspiring watching you do that and live life to the fullest and focus on, that aspect of your health as well. How do you find that transition, prep to prep?
So I think, the one that you're referring to was like after 14 shows, and like I'm finally on break, and like people are not seeing me at like 125 like anymore. And I'm still, I'm still gonna live life and do what I love, which is documenting my life basically and just sharing. So my mental is good, because I check myself, when the time comes for me to go from in season to off season. Now the switch is completely different. Mm. And it's not because I'm switching off from bodybuilding. Like, trust me, when I left the stage from the Olympia, I was already getting ready for the Arnold. Or like when I think you're referring to the Arnold to the Olympia, that off season. Mm-hmm. I was getting ready for the Olympia, but people I don't know why people think that, okay, now that you're done, I still am able to say that I'm prepping for the Olympia, because what I'm doing right now is I have 4 months where I need to take that time to go exactly where I want to be. Mm-hmm. Why am I going to take 5 weeks to go back to maintenance, keep a physique. No, like I'm going back straight to maintenance. I'm enjoying my life. I'm switching it off. And if like I want to go back to my ghrelin, leptin, like all my anger hormones being in check, like being able to feel full, because sometimes like satiation, especially after a show, like it's out of control and it's hard for me to ever feel full, or like having like pizza night. And then like I never was a pizza girl, but I'm like definitely like wanting to spend time with my men and like enjoying like a piece of pizza or two. And I found myself like once I really let myself do that and like agreeing and committing that to myself, like Lauralie, this is how you're gonna get ready to be your best self yet. And not cutting back down, not like you wouldn't see me on the cardio 2 days after trying to do an hour of cardio. Like I was talking to myself consciously, like, and really not letting anything in like the subconscious of things and just, no, just enjoying life. No, I was like committing and strategizing this thing. And I was very confident about my way of doing things. And again, that's just part of me of like having fun and like experiencing my own body at this time of my life. And I'm older, I have a little bit more muscle, so of course like my 156 like looks a lot bigger than my past off season, but I actually was leaner. And then when I first started prep, like I was actually like in a way better place than I actually was like in other preps before, where I had less muscle, my hormones was really erratic. Like no, I got my blood work done. And once I got my blood back done and it was good to go, we were 19 weeks out. I'm like, you know what, Kimbo? Like, why would I wait? Like, let's just start prep now because my body's ready. And 19 weeks out, I had to make any changes to like keep on working on my hormones and balancing everything out. We would have like another like 5 weeks. It would just be like a shorter prep, but at least it would have been on time. So I was so happy, so like pumped, because I was like, wow, what I did and committed to actually paid off. So I think just it's a mindset switch, and you need to commit. If you commit to healing, if you commit to anything in your life, if you commit to go all in, like I don't know if you girls know about Stephanie Buttermore, like she's been like going all in with her like journey of like gaining her intuition back with like food and all this stuff. And it was so beautiful and brave to see, because she documented the whole thing and she gained like 50, 100 pounds. And you only start feeling bad about yourself when you let Susan from Minnesota telling you that not a real athlete, like you should never gain so much weight. Says who? Like I'm still gonna show on stage, and you better believe, you don't believe now, for the 7 years the past of my life that I've done the best that I could ever be on that stage. You know I'm gonna put in the work. It's gonna but you get so hard on yourself. Well, it's on myself. So like it's on me.
It's hard. It's easy at this point for you.
Yeah.
That's why you're not, because
I think Aldo's right, like because the stress is so low, like it just makes it a lot easier than if you were to let that stress build up and feel the guilt and let comments get to you. Like it's just part of your life now to live that way in both seasons, without minimal stress.
I think especially as an amateur coming into the sport as well, I don't know whether you experienced this prior to sort of this mindset, like commitment and the switch that you have now, Lauralie, but I think a lot of it as well, once that show's done, and if you're going into an off season or entering into an off season, the hyperfixation on that one show is gone. So not having anything to mentally commit yourself to, whether that be enjoying yourself, whether that be your training still or whatever, like that loss of that mental commitment that you've had for such a prolonged period of time in your prep evidently tends to be the reason, or I found it to be the reason, where I completely lost any direction in terms of things meaning things. So I think having that commitment that you've just said to full on plunging into your off season, like in season's done, this is my time to replenish myself. This is the time to feel better about myself. So I'm committing to that now before I commit to a prep again later. That must have helped massively in terms of actually relieving yourself of that pressure and stress as well.
Yeah, and again, I want to point it out that I have my own way of committing to things right off season.
Yeah,
you just need to know yourself very well, where maybe at a point in my life, I'm going to be like, I actually want to commit myself to do a restrictive diet post show and following that, because I feel better in having a structure. But that's just not me as of yet. You know what I'm saying? And I've always said like switch on, switch off, but I was kind of like, you know, I've had a prep, like I have an off season where like I actually was under eating like for a long, like a very long period of time, because I wanted to stay in shape for like photo shoot. And then I would have another off season that I said, yeah, switch on, switch off, but I would binge and then like go back to like my cardio, and you're like always that. So again, being committed, but really sitting down, like pen on paper, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to commit to like whatever it is for you to feel intuitive, and like for you to achieve that goal of, okay, I want to feel satiated, like how can I achieve that? And it's really by doing that and committing to it the same way you commit to bodybuilding, but it's just a different craft, and it's more in tune with your body, and the reward, you should feel the same value, like the reward is the same. It's just, I don't know how people like feel that it's less valuable to have their health and function back. I'm like, I could have gained like 35 pounds if I had my period back, because I want to have, obviously I have a vision for myself where like I still want to have babies one day, and like I want to be healthy, and I want my body to say like, babe, you're functioning well. I could have gained 45 pounds. I honestly do not give, like, I really don't, because that is my focus right now. Now, when obviously prep comes around, now it's switch. That is the hard part, where you really need to like give yourself grace and understand that it's going to be the process of, okay, now you're switching your mindset. You're looking at yourself in the mirror, your scale, your food scale is out, your body scale is out. Now the switch is going to be different. I think that transition, you need to be very careful with yourself as about giving yourself grace, because we tend to be very hard on ourselves and just wanted results fast and quickly. But nothing worth having comes easy. You know, you need to be patient. You need to go through this marathon and enjoy the journey, and enjoy the ride, because it's going to be a ride, but that's the only way you're going to do it in a healthy way. And, you know, take more time than you think you actually need to just give yourself like grace and loose, and yourself being a human and going through emotions and feelings and up and down and all this stuff. So yeah.
Right. No, I think that's it, isn't it? It's easy to get lost in this world a little bit, and easy to get lost in the process of becoming an athlete, being the best. And going back to what you said about having patience as well, like the same applies when we were talking about training and building your physique, and even with like any sort of accolades and success in bodybuilding, patience is the key. Patience with yourself, patience with the process, patience with learning, making mistakes, trying again. Like, unless that is probably the center of your core, you're always going to feel off kilter at some stage. Is that something you learn over time, Lauralie? Were you always this in tune with being present and patient, or is that something that over time you've sort of learned that is important?
I think I was, you know, blessed enough to have started my journey without social media like being in my face all the time. I honestly don't know how this generation is navigating through that constant, you know, comparison. Because I'm able to really stay out of it and be really focused on my world right now, because I mean, I love being a human. I love being a girlfriend. I love being a sister. I love being a daughter, like so much that I don't even have time, you know, to look around. But I know that girls are like comparing and they want this right now. And I'm sure I mean, obviously I see it with my client, my posing client, but my posing clients sometimes I come train him.
Yeah, I get all that the stuff.
Yeah.
Because like I said, when they come, I have a conversation with them. I don't just take out the stick and you're doing this and this and this and this, because obviously you guys have spoken with Paul before. Kind of, you know, we're not the same, but we have the same, you know, outlook as being a professional personal trainer, and understanding the client, because the client is the most important thing. When you hire us, that hour, 2 hours, whatever, I go over my hour. I fucking give it all. Like, I don't care, because this is what I love doing. So when I'm having those conversations with them, I see more of them than, you know, what she sees. Because I see them when they're doubting themselves. I see them when they're vulnerable. I see them when they need help. They're there for help. So they're vulnerable already. And then I see them as, when I ask them questions, how are they responding? Are they responding like they're scared to respond? And it's like, why are they scared to respond what they feel? What works for them? They shouldn't feel that way. They should feel it's like a conversation.
I'm confident.
Yeah, confident and like relaxed. Like,
yeah.
Are you scared to ask these questions and question what you're doing and question like what approach with this exercise that you're taking? Because like you're here for a reason, because it's not working or something. So when I see those things, like with your question that you asked, which was what was it, like the most, you said the patients, they're always in a rush. And it shows in the repetitions that they're doing. They're in a rush trying to get, whether it's the rep, the set, the rest. Because I asked them, how much time do you rest? I don't 30 seconds to a minute. What? 30 seconds to a minute. What the hell? And then I'm like, okay. Then you see how fast they do the rep. It's like, wait, you just did it? Wow. Okay. And then you start depicting little things and like the habits that they have. And then when's your show? Okay, that was fast. Yeah. Everything's like being rushed because it's not, again, what Kim said, no one's having fun with it. If you're having fun, if this is what I always say, they're always going for the dessert instead of, you know, enjoying each course, each meal, the you know, the bread, the butter, the what is it, the appetizers. They just, the waiter comes, can I get iced tea please with a little stevia, and can I get this dessert? Like they go straight to the dessert. And it's like, wait, you have to enjoy everything, little bites, like enjoy the moment of training, enjoying the moment of discovering your body, what you're capable of, instead of like this and then that, especially with like a range of motion type of thing. All right, you have to press here and then go up there with this, but you're starting with what is at the end in the beginning. That's not the function of like the exercise. And it's a thing with everything that you said, like the what is it? What's the word? The rush, not being patient or having patience. Patience. Yeah. And that's what builds a physique is patience. What is that? Time under tension under the muscle. You can't build if you're using momentum. Exactly. It goes all back down to, you know, having fun. If you're having fun with something, you don't want to leave, right? You want to stay there. But then stay there. If you know, okay, this is where the magic happens in the set or in the repetition, do it. Stay there. Don't run away from it. That's where it's fun. That's where it hurts, but it's fun. And then don't run after you stayed there. You know, when you go to some place that is fun, someone's house, you don't just, when it's time to leave, you say goodbye to everybody slowly, not rushed. So you just gradually say goodbye. And then the next time that you come, you're anticipated to go there, but you know what's coming. You know how to, you know, enter the house. You know how to say hi to everybody, because that's a part of the having fun thing. So everything goes back to what Kim said, have fun with it and explore it and like take your time with having fun instead of looking at the end thing, because now you're not experiencing the moments that count the most. It's like having a puppy. Like you have the puppy now, experience the moments they're a puppy.
100%.
If they're crying, if they're nibbling on your shoes and you're like, fuck, that was my expensive shoes. Forget that. They're a puppy right there. Enjoy the puppyness until they grow up into a fucking dog. Thing. So it's like, I like to say, think more than bodybuilding. Think like, as you can see, I think too much.
I just need to be, I mean, overall, just like the presence and being present all the way through. And, you know, it's just weird. It's just, no, not weird. I want to say sad a little bit to see these girls feel like they're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
Like
they
doing
always
something
blame themselves.
wrong. And it's like, but it's not wrong, you know, like it's like you don't have, but it's not, you haven't done anything wrong. You know, and if anyone listen, if anyone, I've been in 2018, I was right there, second place Olympia, and then top 4, top 5. Like, I've done a lot of things, but have I done anything wrong? Like,
No.
well, not really, you know? You just keep on going, you just keep the journey going, and that's what makes it fun, is that never ending journey, you know?
Yeah, have fun, literally. And it's a skill really, isn't that you build, I think, as amateurs. Like, we see you guys, you know, the glitz, the glam, and it's like we want that, and it's very easy to just, like what Aldo said, just rush everything and try and get it done and try and get your pro card and try and get through an off season and get through prep and win and win and win, and then you blink and it's like time has just passed and you haven't been present and enjoyed every single moment. I know I have been guilty of that in the past, but you know, looking up to athletes like yourself, like, you preach about it all the time, and that's why we can learn so much from you, because I think the results long term are so much better when you take that approach and you actually enjoy it, rather than just looking at it as like a set, a rep, but actually, okay, right, how can I really make the most of this? How can I make the most of every single day on prep and every single week and who you're with and all the training sessions? Because you're wishing it away. You're like, I'm 2 weeks out and this week's out. We're like, just enjoy the day that's in it and what you're achieving each day. So yeah, so definitely something that you build over time. It's not easy.
Yeah, it tastes much sweeter, but yeah, I think that took me a while to
Yeah.
really embrace that side of the sport, that I would allow myself to be like, okay with, oh, that tasted sweet, like that was different, but it's okay, because
Like with the pressing with your feet thing.
no, I mean, yeah, for sure. Like,
brushing, like whether it's an RDL or like a squat or just standing up and sitting down. Like,
yeah,
it took guarantee you 99.9% of, you know, people in the world are not pressing with their feet. They're on their heels, and that's it.
I just think there's like, yeah, rewiring to be done with just, I mean, we live up from sound bites and noise and like just getting the right sources and just navigating through other things. And what Aldo is referring to is like the pressing with the feet thing. I don't know if you have followed like the journey of that, but it's just been so interesting on like how on squats, hip thrusts, or all the exercises that we're doing, like all of us have no conscious and connection to our feet, and creating forces from like, what are we exactly doing? Are we like just performing right now? Like, is it just like camera action and just like doing it for the camera? Like, what are we actually doing? You know what I'm saying? And it's just like taking that moment to like understand why, and like to see him
Press, because
to see him just let me finish.
Okay, but
Okay.
the pressing with the feet thing, it takes patience. You didn't have the patience to press with your own entire feet. You're getting very patient.
For
You're
sure,
frustrated.
yeah,
She was like, because the Arnold is right around the corner, but it's like,
yeah,
hey, this is something that you should know how to do. Like, this is not okay.
Yeah.
You can't your feet, you can't press with your feet, you
Yeah.
can't stand up with your feet. This is not normal.
Yeah.
And then finally, for the day that we had to go to UM for the study, she finally, it just accidentally happened that she just gave in, and it happened. It occurred, and she almost cried when she actually pressed through her whole entire feet and actually experienced what true hip extension really was and how it's produced. And it was worth it for her in that moment. But in the beginning, she had no patience.
I'm a little bit of a procrastinator too. So yeah, I definitely procrastinated on that. And then that was the night before we went to University of Miami for the study that he's leading. And I was like, okay.
But she wanted to say something.
Today is today. And we did it, and it was, I mean, mind blowing. So I've been pressing with my feet a lot lately, and it's been amazing and great. Yeah.
It's nice though. I think it's nice to know as well, Lauralie, that even with your accolades, with your success to date, there are still things that would otherwise almost we would assume you just have locked in. Like, there's still lessons even at where you're at right now. And I think it's humbling to hear it as amateur athletes as well, to know that they are not exhaustive. Like, you're going to still run into things consistently throughout your journey, no matter how high up that mountain you get, you're still going to have to learn things. So it's actually, it's really nice and reassuring to hear that those things are still presenting a challenge for you even now.
And
Girl, I would-
it's so much more than just like what you see, like that training side of things. Like it does go a lot deeper, but like Aldo said, it's very easy for people to just like go through a squat or just see that, but like so much happens, you know, with our feet as well, and like keep us grounded and actually provide the results as well. So yeah, it's interesting, like you're learning so much about your body as you go through this journey.
And that actually also came from Kim too. That came from Kim, because
We need him on.
to not load the spine in any way when, you know, her waist got so skinny and so like smaller.
Yeah.
And his comment was, let's not load the spine, let's take away, you know, the hip thrust, all these little things. And then we started like thinking like, whoa, okay. And me as a trainer, I started doing research, because obviously he's the GOAT and stuff. And then went down a deep rabbit hole. Went through, you know, she was there by my side watching everything, but she's in prep, you know. So, but everything goes back to the wisdom of Kim.
Right, you're getting Kim on, and I'm popping him a message after.
Yeah, right. But hey, like just like what you mentioned, that, you know, it's the first time I'm hearing, you know, that what you just said, that, you know, the amateur, you know, women or girls that are like looking up to you guys, this is the information that they need. Those,
Right.
Yeah,
I
massive.
guess, instead of this is how I squat type of thing. Like the gems are the, like, these little moments, these little things that we're discovering that are not true or do not work for your sport, for your body, for the sport in general. It's a totally like the opposite thing. And those are the things that they're waiting for. Those are the things that they want to learn. Those are the things that they're, I guess, want to know.
But the thing is like stuff like that, it's not always as glamorous for the Instagram to talk about these people.
Boring.
People want to see how good your ass can look in a pair of leggings, but like these are little things that kind of matter as well. So I'll always be here to listen to those kind of things about your feet.
Listen to them, because you always wonder. Like every athlete wants to know what their fans are.
I think we can take on board everything that, you know, people at the top are doing. It's not just about, you know, how you're training your glutes or how you're posing. It's like these little things that you're learning. You know, there's a lot of wisdom there as well, and like you're working with the best of the best. So share it 100%.
That's what we had discussion yesterday, because you know, I came back and obviously that question was, you know, asked about why, like training, like why am I hip thrusting 3-4 times a week and just squatting and pressing with my heels and doing it all, and still my glutes won't grow. And it's like,
or other things are growing.
And then exactly. And then,
or comparison to the glutes.
Or then people would ask, you know, like him, like, how can I grow my glutes sectorally? And it's like, but why can't you grow your glutes? And then these girls would like
asking the questions, like I said, they answer their own. So
it's
they're like,
not the how, that people want to know the how rather than understanding the what you are doing and how you are having to manipulate that for you. It's not a fixed fixture. Like it doesn't fix everything, one thing.
Well, then, as the trainer, I'm asking, where did you get this information from? Because I really want, because the way I learn is from RTS, from all those, you know, private organizations when it comes to resistance training, and, you know, lifting weights, that's one thing. And then resistance and the physics behind it, that's a whole nother ball game. You can't deny physics, because those are laws of physics. You have to incorporate that in your training, or understand that in your training, especially if you're a trainer too, right? You can't just ignore that and say, just do this because it works. No, you have to understand it. You have to understand the science that's out there. You have to understand the individual that's right in front of you, and you have to combine those things together for that specific person in that specific moment, at either right there or long-term goal. And you have to think ahead of, you know, she's telling me this, but in reality, tomorrow she's going to do glutes again because, you know, that's how things roll. So you have, as a trainer, yeah. So yeah. Then when you ask me as a trainer, when I ask those questions, I start, you know, peeling away from where is it coming from? Oh, so you do glutes for how many times a week? 5 times a week, and they still haven't grown. I think that's telling you something.
Yeah.
That you're doing it 5 times a week, maybe less one day might be
And
better.
that's when, you know, they start, you know, giving themselves out of like, but I'm quad dominant. I'm this, and like finding
And it's
excuses.
like nothing's wrong with you.
There's nothing wrong with them, you know? So yeah, the question is really like, why can't you? And I think my message to like all the competitors that, you know, I want to keep doing what I do because I want you, Grace, like to be like, I believe in myself because Lauralie believes in herself, period. Like, it's so individual, it's so unique, it's so you. Like, you can do exactly what I'm doing. You can. Like, you really can. Like, I'm not special in any mean. I'm from Canada. Like, I had a very regular life. I just committed. I love this thing. I stay true to myself. But I stay true to myself. I stay true to my mistakes. I take the trash out. I do my own, like my nails are trash right now. Like I'm just a human, you know, but just
and you're just
passionate in love with this thing. And I'm not stopping anytime soon. So yeah.
Oh,
Please don't. We would miss you too much.
but anyway, it was an
so
amazing conversation. We won't keep you too long. Thoroughly enjoyed it. But Jade, is there anything else that you want to ask before we?
I suppose just to round up, Lauralie, like you've just given a nugget there, like, is there anything in particular that you would want anybody listening to this to take away from, whether it's an experience, whether it's a point of view, like what's the one thing that you wish you knew when you started and got into competing that you would share with everybody else potentially listening to this? Because we have a lot of first timers listening to the podcast as well. So is there anything you'd like to impart?
I think I've always answered that like for the longest time that I know, and I always tell the girls that are just getting started or just even in the sport, like get your knowledge, like get educated, and when you think you've done learning, like open another book, look somewhere else, go other places, try something new, like always like dig for deeper knowledge, and just don't stop yourself as the first reading. Like look at the reference, say what the reference are saying, because you would go down and
go through the references.
Yeah, exactly. Go through the references, find like if that is actually like you would find so much. And to know yourself inside out, that's what's going to keep you alive in the sport and just guided. Keep your family close to you, keep your loved one close to you, the people that really truly loves you for who you are at your core. And yeah, babe, what would you say? Like
I would say, well, for you is for them, no, for you to ask them what is something that they personally want to, you know, ask you for, you know, because this is the first time we've spoken to, you know, people that are in the sport, but in the what is it?
Coming up the ranks,
the NPC.
The amateur. Yeah.
Now you have it in front of you, and you like, because that's always like a question that she always wants to like know, is like, what do they want to know? Like what? And I'm telling her, I'm like, well, if you're a Disney character in the Disney Channel, like 8 years ago, that's not the same, you know, demographic. You're not the same. You're not in the same demographic. So what you were posting back then is not the same thing that you should. I mean, I don't know, but wouldn't be posting now. Like you're not going to fit in that little tiny little, you know, outfit that you were wearing when you're in the Disney Channel.
Right. Yeah.
So I feel like, you know, ask them what they would want to know, what, like, whatever you guys want to know, like ask her.
I think we answered it really well in the podcast. Like a big thing for me and why we created this podcast is to just learn more about your story and to hear the honesty and transparency, like, because we only see an Instagram photo, we see you on stage, we see the tip of the iceberg, and we like to hear it all. And I think a big one, like we touched on the podcast, is like you being true to yourself and your values. I think is so important, because a lot of the time with us amateurs, like it's very easy to just be a robot or put on a front and just do what we feel people are doing on Instagram. But there's so much more than that. Like there's so much life, and you, like you said, you're a human at the end of the day, and us athletes need to know that as well. Like, it's absolutely crucial, and that's why we have these conversations, is to show people listening that you don't have to live that way that you think you need to live, that you can be a human too, and you can attend to all of these different values. And I think just that honesty and that transparency in your life outside of it is so important. It really, really is. And I think you're doing a great job. So don't doubt yourself when it comes to that. And like you can see, you're great on the podcast about it. But the more we learn, like, the better it makes us feel about our journeys as well.
Yeah, I think the podcast that you ladies are doing just gives context to a place where there's a lot of non-context. Like, as much as this guy is posting like 10 times a day, which, you know, it's as much as he can, like, I wish I could just like have a 24/7 camera in the gym and then a 24 camera. Like, you girls ladies would see what is actually happening in here. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's like
Yeah, oh yeah, she can't put, yeah, that's another, yeah, she can't like bombard her social media with everything she's learning, because
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
it's her page that, you know, I guess
Yeah.
makes
Yeah,
that's why podcasts are so great, because we can actually give context and like
Yeah, for sure.
that.
and add like and ask those questions that you guys are asking,
Yeah.
like, you know,
And
like,
so
be
valuable
aggressive.
now, because a few years ago, like, there wasn't these kind of platforms to learn about the athletes, and you just presume that they got there and it was like they didn't have to do anything, like that you can actually live normal lives like us.
Yeah, and then the thing is, then you go through the transition of, like he said, I look past at my other interviews, or like even today, like you put a front, and then the people that you see on the podcast, where you have an opportunity, like you girls, ladies are giving me an opportunity to be as messy as I want to be and just be as real as I can be. I could be like, okay, babe, like we need to not eat, we need to not breathe, we need to like be like this, just present ourselves a certain way. But I think I'm way past that now. I just want to show like the truth as much as I can.
Yeah.
And he teaches me that a lot, because when I met him, I was like, wow, you're so free. Like, you have so much freedom of like, you're a good man, you're secure with yourself, and you're just able to like showcase that. And I just think it's so admirable. And when you're doing, ladies, when you're doing good things with good intentions, like there's nothing to hide. Like, there's just nothing to hide. So, thank you for letting us come on here today and chat and just yourselves.
Makes you so relatable. Really, really does.
Yeah, it's been fantastic just to see you together as well. Like, the first opportunity to actually talk to you together, understand the dynamic that you two have, like personally and within your careers and things. It's great. So no, thank you both for just coming on and being yourselves and offering up the value that you have, because atypically it's not a play-by-play in terms of how to structure a glute drive or X, Y, and Z, but these are conversations that Grace and I are so passionate about having, because they actually provide value long term for people to navigate this sport. So thank you.
Here's one other thing. If you guys are, you know, striving to be a champion, like the champions, right? What I'm seeing that the champions have that's, you know, bigger is they're ready to be a champion with the comments on social media, with, you know, the disassociation with what's going to work for this and what's going to work for that. That, like, because remember, when you win, when you become a champion, that means someone else is not the champion. And that champion has to go against all those other fans of the other person and be tough. And then they have to come back the next year and hold that title without showing 1 ounce that any of those other fans affected them. And that all comes from, you know, what you guys are talking about. So that's the big thing that I started realizing, is that when you're a champion, you're going to be ready to be a champion. And that's with those things, because then you wouldn't be a champion in the first place. So that's
resilience. Yeah, no, incredible. Both of you, thank you so much. Thank you for your precious time, Lauralie. Massive good luck at the Arnolds as well. Grace and I will be avidly watching, because we do most times anyway. But no, huge good luck and congratulations for your career to date, and we can't wait to see what both of you achieve going forward, because it really does feel like all the boxes are finally slotting exactly where they need to be for you to really do that. So Can't wait to watch it.
Thank you.
Thank you. It's
Thank
gonna
you.
be a good year, ladies, and congratulations on what you're doing, the podcast, and yeah, making moves.
Yeah,
Okay.
Bye.
very quick.
Thanks, guys.